So right now I have my beef all cubed up and ready to go. The first thing I want to do before I start anything is put salt and pepper on them. So now that I'm done putting the salt and pepper, I am going to be placing my beef onto a pan. I'm going to lightly oil it and just fry it just for a few minutes so that I'm able to just get the outside more crispy more than the inside, because I really don't want to cook it too much. I want it to cook together with the vegetables and the broth. I don't want it to be too hard. I want it to be actually nice and soft, almost like it's just falling apart when you're chewing on it. So you really don't want to overcook the meat. You want it to actually cook with the soup. So right now I'm adding in a spoon of butter. I have to say that butter is everything, especially when you are sauteing meat. You want to add butter to the meat. It just gives it this flavor, this texture. It's just so good. It's so great. So don't ever forget the butter. So right now I'm just removing the meat from the pan into a bowl. And the best thing I can tell you is do not clean out your pan, because you definitely need all of those flavors that are in it. I personally love to use the flavors that come from the meat or anything else that I make, like bacon. I definitely love to fry one vegetable at a time. So what I did was slice up some onions, some carrots, and some celery. And again, I kind of just like to fry them separately. So right now I'm just adding in the onions, the white onions, and I'm just going to saute that for a little while and then add in the rest of my vegetables. So now that I'm done frying up these vegetables, I'm going to be adding in these red potatoes. They were pretty big, so I diced them up into a medium size because you don't really want them to be too big and you don't want them to be too small. You just don't want them to overwhelm and overpower everything else in the stew. So I'm just going to add these in and fry them up. So right now I'm adding in about a cup of red wine, and I know it sounds like a lot, but it does die down at the end. It does stick in, but it does die down. I don't know. It's just so great. It tastes really great. I'm not really a red fan, so but it really comes great with this stew. It really tastes really good with this stew. So I can't complain. My uncle brought this for me and I thought this would go good with my stew. So I added in the meat, and right now I'm gonna be putting in 1/3 of a cup of flour. And the flour, what it does is it creates like this thickness to it. So you definitely wanna just add that flour in. Try not to skip that step. And just blend it and mix it together. So now that I blended that all together, I'm going to add the full container of beef broth. I got this actually at Walmart, and it was a really good price. I think they were on sale for 99 cents, so I would go and run and get it if I were you. But yes, you definitely need the beef broth, and I just put it in, and then what I'm going to do is just blend it up and then continue to the next step. Now that that's all blended, I'm going to be adding in 1 can of Hunt's tomato paste. It's super delicious. I have to say, it's basil, garlic, and thyme together. It's all mixed in there. And it definitely did make it taste different. The flavor from last year and this year are two different. But I like this flavor this year because it's more of the oregano, more of the thyme. Yeah, and the last year I used Guinness, the beer. I added that into this soup, and this year I used the red wine. And I have to say that it is a huge difference between one and the other to me. May not be to others, but to me, it definitely does taste different. And this was more thicker than last year. I don't know if it was because I used one or the other. But what I do know is that both of them are still good with or without the Guinness. It's still really, really good. So I definitely highly recommend one or the other. So what I'm going to do now is just continue to blend that in because I want to make sure that the tomato paste gets all around and all inside. You just want to keep twisting and turning it and try your best not to make a mess. So I'm adding in my thyme from my garden and 2 basil leaves. As you can see, they're not too big, they're not too small, they're right in between. And this recipe does require you to do both. It definitely, again, it sets up this aroma, this deliciousness to the soup, and I highly recommend not to skip this step as well. So now I'm going to add in the peas into the stew, and I'm going to incorporate it all together. And I'm going to be adding in 3 teaspoons of oil. Now that that's all done, I'm going to cover it and let it sit for about 2 hours. The best thing to do is to keep checking to make sure that the potatoes are cooked fully through. And thank you guys again for watching. I appreciate it. Subscribe and like.